This is the Barbados Today evening news for Tuesday, November 26. Thank you for joining us. I am Marie-Claire Williams. There has been a drop in the number of loans approved by the Barbados Trust Loan Fund due to a backlog in repayments. But the General Manager, Jerry Amos, is giving the assurance that the fund remains healthy. The BTLF officially opened in November last year and provides loans of up to $5,000 in the first instance to qualifying applicants. They will have the opportunity to borrow twice that amount upon successful repayment. So far, the BLTF has just over 2,700 clients at a value of over $12 million. Amos says there are still about 1,300 people on the waiting list for loans, and those receiving advances have yet to complete repayments.
What we have done, that we have concentrated a lot on trying to recover the fund, because remember that it was pitched as a revolving fund. So we actually are appealing to those who have received the funds to actually start the repayments. We've been actually from the month of November, we'll be putting a lot of effort into recovering those funds. So because of the small staff complement, what we have done is that we have taken some of the weight off of doing loans to put it on those who are actually trying to reach out to the clients to encourage them to repay the loan.
The state-owned Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation, the CBC, has been put on alert for additional restructuring. The announcement from Education Minister Santia Bradshaw in Parliament today. She said CBC's finances have been on the decline for several years and action is needed.
The corporation has been operating at an annual loss of approximately $6 million for a considerable length of time. Back in 2006, the annual debt was around $89 million. In 2007, it was $72 million. And by 2008, it was $73 million. By 2017, it had accumulated a total of over $100 million. And a review of the current performance continues to show that the entity continues to struggle to improve its performance financially.
Bradshaw added that the corporation's failure to digitize has also added to its financial challenges.
Households now have other mediums through which to watch television, to be able to have news disseminated to them. And as a consequence of the competition and the failure by the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation to digitize its services, it has obviously therefore not maintained its competitiveness and therefore at this stage is now in dire need of significant sums of investment.
One gender equality advocate is warning men and boys that they do not have the right to disrespect or violate any woman. Research assistant at the Institute of Gender and Development Studies at the UWI Cave Hill campus, Leanne Worrell, issued the message this morning at a meeting with fifth formers at the St. Leonard's Boys Secondary School. She was speaking on the topic sexual violence and rape culture as part of the observance of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence.
So we make a lot of fun about the kind of woman who deserves a particular kind of treatment. The ghetto girl deserves this. What she was doing down there, she shouldn't have had that on. Nobody deserves violence, right? No matter what they're wearing, or where they are, or what they were doing. And my final point is, how do we move towards a culture of respect before they play me off? And the first message I want to give y'all is to don't rape. Don't rape. Don't sexually assault people. Treat people with the respect that they deserve as human beings.
The discussion was hosted by the U.S. Embassy. Public Affairs Officer Larry Sosha says it was necessary to host the program at the island's only all-boys secondary school to discuss issues of rape, sexual harassment, and gender-based violence.
These are problems that our societies face together, both Barbados, the United States, and around the world. And unfortunately, there's troubling reports out there of women whose first sexual encounter is forced or somewhat forced, they report, and young men are part of the solution to those problems of forced sexual encounters, rape, and sexual harassment. So having those open conversations today is what we're here at St. Leonard's to do.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
It's Festive Friday at the Bridgetown Night Market at Pelican Craft Center. Kick off the weekend this Friday from 4 p.m. to midnight with loads of food, drinks, and entertainment. Get ready for Crop Over with the Rhythm Roots Street Parade. Party like it's Kadooman Day on the street around Pelican Village with costume reveler, music, and more. It's Festive Friday. It's Festive Friday at the Bridgetown Night Market at Pelican Village Center from 4 p.m. to midnight. Admission free.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
Thank you for staying with us. We're back with news from the region. Guyana's Finance Minister Winston Jordan says there is not much that government can do to increase private sector wages. He was responding to concerns that the private sector could become less competitive. We get more in this report from HGP Nightly News.
Minister of Finance Winston Jordan says he's very concerned that there is need for a skill set in Guyana to cater for an expanding and transformed economy. The minister's comments came following questions on whether he's concerned that the private sector can become less competitive with the public sector against the backdrop of the steady increases being offered by government.
And if we don't pay wages, we will never get the competencies that we require to help build this country. When you have to hire somebody coming from outside and pay them $15,000 to $20,000 US versus a similar category here that you're probably paying $2,000, maybe $2,500 US, you understand how you're going to continue to lose skills if we don't move rapidly.
Efficient public service, Minister Jordan said, is required to service a growing private sector.
So we all have to adjust to realities, and we all have to remember the factors of production and try to ensure that each factor of production is as efficiently occupied and employed as possible.
While the government has moved to increase the minimum wage for public servants to $70,000 from $64,220 per month, the finance minister was asked whether government could order an increase for private sector workers.
Well, only if under the Factories Act there are some specific categories for which the government is responsible through the Ministry of Labour. Beyond that, private arrangements, you have to deal with the particular private sector.
The minister debunked comments that the private sector is heavily taxed. He's making the case that revenues the government has been collecting since 2015 has largely come from an expanded base and not new taxes on the private sector.
Further afield, 3 men falsely convicted of murder in the U.S. state of Maryland have been set free after 36 years in prison. Alfred Chestnut, Andrew Stewart, and Ransom Watkins had been sentenced to life in 1984 for killing a 14-year-old boy a year earlier. They were freed in Baltimore on Monday after a judge cleared their convictions following a review of their case. The case was reopened this year after Chestnut sent a letter to Baltimore's Conviction Integrity Unit. He included evidence that he had uncovered last year. The men were greeted by family members upon their release.
I really don't have the words to say. I just thank God. I really do. I just thank God.
What's it like being out right now?
It's surreal.
This is the first time I have been able to hug my son in about 20-some years. This is wonderful.
My faith, what kept me through it, and the people that's around me, you see here, will help me get through all this. They never stopped fighting for me, and I never stopped fighting.
Chestnut, Stewart and Watkins were arrested as teenagers in November 1983 following the death of DeWitt Duckett, who was shot in the neck on his way to class at a Baltimore junior high school and had his own Georgetown University jacket stolen. DeWitt's death received widespread press coverage. It was the first fatal shooting of a student at a Baltimore public school. And that's the news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, and like us on Facebook, and sign up for breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals and Screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM. I am Marie Claire Williams. Good evening.